right, welcome back to Ride On. I'm James Gross, and I'm joined by Jason and Camilla Iftakhar. Welcome, Jason and Camilla. How are you?
We're good. How are you?
Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Absolutely. Well, we've got a lot to get through with you two because you have a lot of kind of really cool announcements, and you have a wonderful backstory. And I guess just to maybe announce the one of the coolest things that happened was Jason and Camilla and their company Swifty Scooters was at Micromobility America on October 19th and 20th, and they won the Startup Awards in America, which was amazing. And yeah, let's start there maybe because I do want to do the backstory, but let's just start with that win. You know, what was that like, and how was the Startup Awards contest?
Whoop, whoop.
Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah, there we go.
Thanks very much. It was cool.
Put it in the background.
Oh yeah,
yeah, there we go.
It was really cool to win. It was so nice. You know, we'll go into the history later, but we've been around for nearly a decade now, not doing electric scooters, but doing kick scooters and some other products. And to have an award or an accolade and recognition from the industry, which is the collective that Micromobility has put together, it really feels like we're at home there. And to be, to win there, like the mecca of micromobility was a real honor. So I think that's why I got so kind of emotional when I did my acceptance speech, because it was just like this accumulation of working hard to get to the show. Like, we decided that we wanted to show that product to the public for the first time at your show, and then like we got to that point, got there. It's a pretty difficult journey getting there with the kids as well, because we brought them along. So it just got to me. So no, it's top, really good.
Yeah, amazing. So I mean, yeah, you guys had the kids there. It felt like a family moment. Again, winning in at the Craneway Pavilion, which was the old Ford factory, the first place we ever did a Micromobility America event. Actually, for everyone out there, the last time we're going to do a Micromobility event there, the Craneway is going to transition to pickleball courts. If there's ever a topical thing that the Craneway might become, moving from a Ford factory to an event venue, and now pickleball courts.
Oh, I've heard about this pickleball thing. It's like short tennis, right?
Yeah. Do you guys play pickleball in Manchester?
We don't, but I've seen it on the news recently, and it's like becoming this really big thing for people to pursue. So, yeah, I mean, we love tennis. We don't get very often to play it, do we? But it looks like it's a bit more accessible, and yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's quite a controversy here in the US. So if you like tennis, you might not like pickleball, because most real tennis people are very upset about what pickleball stands for. I guess the type of athlete that is now playing on their tennis courts. But yeah, I think your win was awesome. Let's talk about your win. Let's talk about your pitch for everyone out there. Like, what was it about your pitch that you think the judges liked, and like what was the angle you took on trying to win? Of course, the best startup award.
Okay, so our idea was to really focus on what the actual whole project is. And the project of the G500, the new vehicle, is to look at 4 pain points that we really think the customer experiences, and we wanted to really address it. So the first pain point, which is the biggest topic in micromobility, is batteries catching fire and how dangerous they are. They're not just dangerous to the consumer, but they're dangerous to our industry. And so, we've heard about lithium ferrophosphate for some time, and we're really surprised that we're the first scooter company that has actually done that. And I think that was one of the main reasons why we won the award, because we were there. One of the questions by the judges was, do you have IP there? Are you going to protect this? And my answer was, no, I want the whole industry to go lithium ferrophosphate, because competition is good, and we need to clean up the industry, and we need to stop these fires, and it is possible. So battery safety was the first pain point, consumer pain point. Second one was utility. So we really think that with our vehicle type as a scooter, being able to carry your goods, your shopping, your bag that's got your laptop in a safe and reliable way is a pain point. And scooting with a rucksack on your back isn't the nicest experience. We've everyone that scoots has done it. And, you know, in the hot weather like you have in California, you get hot and sweaty. So utility is important. I don't think anyone's really done what we're doing with the front and back pannier racks. The third topic that we wanted to address was rider safety. People falling off, people going over potholes, for example. That's all big news. So we have dual suspension. We've always led with having a larger wheeled scooter. So 16 inches are minimum size that we believe in for an adult. And then the rider geometry. So all the geometry is standard 150-year-old bicycle geometry that we lend from to give our bicycle geometry, scooter geometry, sorry, which we think delivers a really stable, really nice ride. And actually, Horace said at the show that he felt like the G500 was the Bentley of scooters, which is a really nice comment, which we really like. So the fourth topic was service maintenance and repair. So you know, we are inundated on a weekly basis here in the UK with customers who have other scooters that come to us trying to find parts for their vehicle from other brands, and we're like, look, sorry, we're a scooter brand, we're not, you know, a retailer, we don't stock those parts. So our own customers as well, over 10 years of servicing them, having a vehicle that you can take parts off very easily, fix and maintain is crucial. And for a brand that has an international strategy like ourselves, who want to sell pretty much globally from the UK direct to consumer, having those parts that you can just send in the post, and the consumer, you know, with as little many of technical knowledge and tools can replace it. So for example, our controller, you can whip that out in literally 5 minutes and replace it. And that's probably one of the number one things that goes on a vehicle is the controller. It can go quite easily. So those are the 4 pain points that I think we wanted to address. And I guess that's why we won, because it resonated with the judges.
Okay. And then, yeah, I agree with that. I think, and Camilla, I remember you saying in kind of your launch video for the G500, you know, I'm curious to see how people feel about the size of it, you know, because it feels big, I think, from where you guys come from, but maybe, again, you're in America, the kind of land of bigger car, bigger modes. What was the response like on the size of it? Just curious there. Did people feel like, oh, wow, it's big, or did it not seem big?
I think because of the big wheels, it looks like it's a lot bigger than some of the other scooters, but in reality it isn't. It's just like a slightly different form factor. And also the weight is really comparable with a more compact scooter. But what you get with the 16-inch wheels and the slightly longer wheelbase is this really smooth and stable ride. The footplate is fairly low as well, but actually the combination of those 16-inch wheels and the low deck is really significantly more comfortable. And I think we've chosen that sort of form factor simply because of the conditions that we ride in here in Manchester. I mean, being in California, the weather's beautiful and you understand why a more compact scooter would be fine. But somewhere like Manchester, the weather's very changeable. We have, you know, long winters, very wet, quite stormy, and the ride can be, you know, the road can be covered in debris. You have potholes covered in puddles. You know, the conditions are much more, I know, you need a more stable ride to be confident riding a scooter in the UK. And really that feeling of safety is what we want to demonstrate for our industry. Because as you know, the UK has some teething problems in micromobility.
Well, it's fascinating. It's fascinating to see the innovation you all have come up with with where you're from, and of course, as you say, the teething issues that maybe your hometown, your home country has with the amazing innovation you built in transportation. Let's talk. So I think there's some really cool parallels with what you have done and what we've seen in the e-bike industry as well, which is, we had Levi Conlow in the States there, who in the US basically sells more electric bikes than anyone else, sells, and upwards, as he announced on stage, of 150,000 units a year in the US.
Yes, I saw that. Incredible.
Wow.
Incredible, right? And but also on the one wheelbase of 20-inch wheelbase, and for lack of, not necessarily what they were doing, but a lot of a low profile seat type riding. And I think and Levi teased it out, and they just announced for the first time they've gone with a larger tire, the 24-inch wheelbase for their off-road commuter vehicle that they just announced. But with you, the 16-inch is very distinct, and the lower profile on the deck is also distinct. I see the need there, I can understand the safety there, which is really nice and really cruisy. Why?
Yeah, right. Really cruisy.
Really cruisy, and
really
again, that's where,
and just beautiful to ride. And I think from experience, the safer you feel when you're riding, you just have so much more fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Because we've tried some of the rental scooters. We were in Frankfurt, drove across some cobbles, which you get a lot in Europe.
Teeth rattlers.
Yeah, it's not the best experience. And for a consumer brand, you really want to make the experience the best you can.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
that's where even sorry, on the weather point, again, in California here as an example, even though very nice weather, but we do like to cruise, we invented the beach cruiser, and where I can imagine the 16-inch, if it's understood more with a consumer here, would just be the idea that you want to, when you're riding a scooter, I think there's not enough of a market understanding that scooter is for cruising too. It's not just for this performance, full helmeted, all leather racing. You can really cruise on a scooter, and I think you all have, you have a market there with that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think the scooter was designed for the US market in mind. I mean, we've been selling direct our kick scooters to the US market for some years now, and we've got a lot of feedback there, and we kind of feel like we understand that customer a little bit. But just to Camilla's point before, and your question before, I mean, talking about the cruising element, the handlebars have a really good back sweep. So I think it's 30 degrees or something. It's really far. And the number one thing that people said at the show when they got on was they just felt confident. And that's something that's really actually quite difficult to do. It might look, quite obvious when you look at it, but from a design and engineering point of view, it doesn't take much to take that away. And so that just comes from our experience of years of this will be our, I think, 6th production frame that we've designed, engineered, tested, and put out there. So all the little details, all that combined knowledge putting together has made this the best ride we've ever produced. And that just comes from just years of doing it, trying different geometries and frames. But one of the most important points, which I've been talking about for years in terms of making a stable ride, and the reason why the minimum wheel size we believe of 16 inches is important, is because the axles of the wheels, if you draw a line between the two, if your deck is in line with that or above, your center of gravity is going to be above those axles, and that's what makes an unstable ride, a twitchy ride. If it's below, your weight is actually pushing you into the ground when you're turning, when you're cornering, and they're the positions, the riding positions, when you do feel a little bit unstable as opposed to just going straight. It's when you're going around a corner, especially when it's slippy. So if it is slippy and it is wet, and you're above the axle point, you're actually taking pressure off the tires in the corner. And so that's when you're going to get your accident. So if you look out there and you look at the geometry of scooters that don't feel very good to ride, it's really easy to see why. A lot of the times the front wheel doesn't have an offset. It doesn't have a proper trail. So that's why you have this shaky steering. Often, I'm so blown away sometimes when you see the innovation that goes into stopping the shaking of steering, when they have these steering dampers and everything. You just need to have a bike trail. Bikes don't have shaky steering, and that's for a reason, because of the geometry. So I know it's difficult to do when you've got a tiny wheel because everything's compressed, but having the big wheel just gives you so much more.
And the important thing is the result of this, right? So if you feel confident and safe riding, you ride for longer.
Yeah.
And with Swifties, you know, we've really pushed the boundaries in the distance people ride.
Yeah.
Because with our kick scooters, we thought, well, this is just like a last mile thing. You fold it up, put it on the tram, and then scoot the last mile to the office or something like that. But actually, once you use it, you're like, oh, I can just scoot the 5 miles
and beyond
and save about the bus fare or whatever, because you feel so great riding it. And I think that's also where the judges really picked up on our niche in the pitch, because they were asking about the average length of trip that this scooter was designed for, and actually it's 5 miles plus, really. And you know, it really does open up the whole city, you know, to micromobility. It's not just about the last mile.
Yeah, right. And I mean, again, even so you kind of stayed with your DNA though. If it's foldable, I think you have the quick release on the front wheel as well. You also, I mean, again, so I think you know, just hearing you both talk about the you know, how you thought about the innovation in design to allow for a stable ride. One thing I was curious on and seeing it is, what is the weight capacity?
So we've always spec'd our frames for riders of up to 150 kilos. So we've always had a really high weight limit, just because of how strong we design our frames to be.
What's that in pounds? Sorry, just to do that.
I think it might be about
330.
I think it might be 300.
Yeah, 330. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's right over 300. Yeah, 3.
Yeah. So we'll be carrying on with that tradition, and it will need to have something above that for the panniers as well. I think the total weight extra for the panniers, I think it's about 60 pounds in pounds. That is.
And then what do you do about when I saw it, I would imagine 2 people are going to want to ride on this thing sometimes.
Oh, well, that's a whole
that's going to happen. Yeah.
Warranty voided.
Warranty voided. Okay. Not it's you know, like there is a really, I know it's not safe, but it does have that charming appeal to cruise together on that I imagine will, you know, people will do what they want to do with their vehicles. And I think that looks like a very charming ride to potentially have 2 people on it. So yeah,
we've only tried it with, we have a chocolate Labrador, Maggie. We've tried it with her. She loves it. She sits on the foot plate and we whiz along.
Got the dog on it.
Her tongue is hanging out. She loves it. So in pets only.
Pets only.
Pets only. But yeah, there is real cargo capacity there, which is also cool. And again, I think it's something that we'll continue to see in this space, whether it's panniers or front-loading dogs. I know there's been some talk of maybe a trailer of some sort, but I'm not sure. Where you guys feel
if you're going to do longer trips, you might need some luggage.
Yeah. we have a kind of a cool idea. We'd love to like come back with a trailer with a big solar panel on there and go right across the US. So charge some batteries up as we're scooting, and that'd be so cool to do. So maybe we'll come back and arrive at the next mobility show.
Sure. Take it down the coast highway and recharge and camp along the way. That would be really fun and very cool. I would love to see you do that.
I mean, that's one of the cool things about the battery, the lithium ferrophosphate. I mean, you can charge back up to 80% really fast. Like under an hour, you can be back up to 80%. So
let's talk a bit about the battery, because actually that was the most important part of our pitch.
Yeah,
I think.
Let's go there. I guess my question there, Camilla, is just why isn't the entire industry on lithium ferrophosphate? What's the holdup?
In terms of bikes and scooters, people want to hide the battery, and often there's not much space. And the normal lithium batteries are more compact.
Yeah.
Because of the size of the Swifty, we are able to accommodate LFP batteries.
Yeah.
Because it does require a bit more space for the range that the market requires.
I think there's a couple of things. I think if you look at this whole kind of range anxiety is a real thing. And I think, a lot of the manufacturers have totally been like, the whole marketing agenda is chase the numbers, like the biggest peak wattage, biggest watt, nominal watt, for the motor, and then the battery. What is the most range we can give the customer? And I think, I think if that is your approach, you could only go with NMC batteries because they provide the most energy density. So I think, it sounds quite obvious, but when you're coming to make those decisions, especially from a supply chain point of view, because, the majority of the industry will buy a pack from a Chinese manufacturer. We kind of decided to try and take a different approach. First of all, from a safety point of view, so we're like, look, it's got to be LFP. LFP is pretty cool because you can use it. They call it like a gas tank kind of philosophy. So you basically just fill it back up. It has no detrimental effect to the battery. If you just want to put 20 minutes of charge in, you use it by just keep topping it up. It's much better if you kind of run it down almost to zero and then charge it back up to 80%. That last 20% is kind of hard to achieve, so it's kind of, there's no point kind of doing that. So getting it up to 80% is enough, but that gives you the extra range. So our vehicle will do 40 kilometers in total with one charge cycle. But if you just stop for 15 minutes and charge it back up, you've got, half the range back again. So I think we need to, this vehicle is supposed to challenge a lot of the issues in the industry. First of all, safety, geometry, size, wheel size, double suspension, and this idea of chasing numbers. Like, why do you need to have a vehicle that does 80 kilometers? Who does that length of journey in one charge cycle? I kind of get it. I have it the same when I ride it. You kind of feel, oh, I'm running low. But I think we need to challenge that perception and say, well, is the cost of safety worth giving up a little bit of range anxiety? And I think the answer is yes. And one of the judges on the pitch asked me that question, the question of with your battery, is there IP there that you're going to protect? And I said, no, I want to inspire the industry to do what we're doing. Like, if they need advice, they want to come to us and ask questions about LFP, then hey guys, pick up the phone. I'm happy to speak to you. And anyone that's watching, if you're a manufacturer and you want to know about LFP, we'll give you all the information that we've got. I'm happy to give 20-minute conversation to anyone, because I think the more companies that can use safe batteries as a collective group together, we can have a bigger impact. And I think competition is great. It's good. We want more really high quality vehicles that are out there doing what we're doing.
Great. And I think those are all good points. And I know also the LFP, as you mentioned quickly there, in some of your other videos, has a faster charging cycle for quick charging. Also has less sort of the deprecation issue as you get lower in the battery, and it doesn't lose the power like a more traditional lithium ion does.
Yeah, constant current discharge. It's amazing.
Constant current discharge. Yeah.
Yeah. Constant.
It's cool.
I think the most important thing that we haven't really touched on is the resistant to thermal runaway.
Yes. Okay.
I mean, that really is the issue for LFP.
Yeah.
Because the industry is being damaged by, batteries that are not being charged correctly, or they're damaged and they can catch fire.
Yeah.
Because of the nature of the chemistry.
Yeah.
And they do suffer thermal runaway, which is this getting very hot very, very quickly.
Yeah.
And this isn't something that happens with LFP.
Yeah, it doesn't happen because there's no oxygen produced when you do have when they get hot, so they literally just can't catch fire. The electrolyte also isn't flammable, and the problem with NMC batteries is that the electrolyte is flammable and they produce oxygen, and so this is what produces this horrendous gas cloud of poisonous gases. The energy has to go somewhere, and it's terrifying that they catch fire. I mean, if you were to, in 10 years come back and look at what we were doing, and go, we're all using these NMC batteries just because we were pursuing range anxiety, and just because the supply chain is set up like that, and no one was actually bothering to just change course and try a different way. I think we'll look back and go, God, those guys were crazy. Like, look at what happened. So,
I mean, the car industry is already
Tesla's done it,
embracing LFP. So there's Tesla and also the Chinese company BYD.
Yeah, BYD, they're doing it.
LFP. Mm-hmm. And I've heard that VW will also start to use LFP. So, there's a huge industry in LFP already. It's just not being adopted by micromobility as fast.
Yep. Right. So I think there's, it seems like you guys are pioneers in the space on LFP. It seems like something that we're going to say is sort of the, standard. We know this is a big issue. We talked about this a lot at Micromobility America with the CBSC, with PHMSA, which is the pipeline of hazardous materials in the U.S., which is all about how these things get transported on freeways or boats or anywhere else. And then, of course, even having like Laura, the fire commissioner from in New York, and I know London has been dealing with fires as well, much like New York has in a big area. I'm sure this is happening in smaller areas too, just may not reported as much, and not quite as tragic as some of these bigger apartment fires are.
Yeah. You know what would be really cool just to mention at this juncture as well for like your audience and just in general, like when you're having those conversations. So the shipping of batteries is also an issue. The UN 3181, 3171, batteries contained inside vehicle, outside a vehicle, packed in multi-packs, etc., etc. What would be really cool is to somehow be able to, as a group, influence the IATA standards in terms of a UN number which says if it's a lithium ferrophosphate battery which is safe, this can be shipped because it is safe. It won't catch fire. It would be amazing to have another category that is for lithium ferrophosphate batteries. So I think,
where is that, Jason and Camilla, in the U.S. with LFP? Is that in UL certification, which of course is like the big thing right now in New York? Most likely will roll out throughout the US.
I don't think there isn't any advantage to have LFP when it comes to certification. It doesn't change anything, even though.
But is it UL certified? Like, are the LFP batteries you're using, are they UL certified?
It's going through all that now. So the official launch of the vehicle will be in April next year. That's when we're ready. That's when we'll be shipping. So the whole certification process, that's all happening at the moment. So yes, it will be by the time we're ready to ship for sure.
Okay, cool. That's great. And then final thing on the new product, which I think is just worth mentioning. So you have you have disc brakes, but not hydraulic brakes. I think that's something people might just want to understand why that is. And it seems like you made a thoughtful decision there. And then also just a lot of your exposed wires, which again, increasingly scooters are trying to often hide the wires with the more of a sleek appearance. So you have kind of bucked the trend in both of those areas too. And it'd be great to hear why you've done that.
Yeah. So, I'll just talk about disc brakes for the moment. I think hydraulic disc brakes and cable disc brakes have got a real bad rap. And I understand, because I was a customer back in the day when they first came out, and, they were the cheap and cheerful option. The poor man's hydraulic disc brake. I had a pair and they were awful. The good news is that they have really come on in recent years. And one of the very difficult things, like if you go back to the 4 things we're trying to achieve with the vehicle when it comes to service, maintenance, and repair, like for the average consumer to repair a hydraulic disc brake hose. And the rear disc brake on our vehicle, it's a really long cable. It goes right through the frame. It's very difficult for them to repair that or replace it. You have to bleed the line. It needs extra tools, quite complicated tools to use. You got to take the oil out. It's not an easy job. And the comparison in terms of performance for hydraulic versus the higher end cable disc brake, for me, there's not that much. And one of the really nice things I like about cable disc brakes is that the kind of the toe effect that you get from a caliper brake. And what I mean by that is when you pull the lever, you get a gradual pressure on the actual disc, as opposed to a hydraulic disc brake. Everyone knows, that they're very sensitive. You pull it on and it locks on straight away. There's not much of a scale there for getting it wrong and going over the front. So coming back to kind of rider safety, so we're thinking about the customer getting on for the very first time. What is their experience? If they're going to pull that brake, it's a little bit like when you get a brand new car, right? You're not used to it. You're a little bit unsure until you get, or like a higher car, and the brakes are very, very touchy. So all of those things made us decide to go with a cable disc brake. It also makes assembly a lot quicker and faster, and also the fact for the end consumer, when we're packing the product up into its shippable carton, we have to disconnect the brakes, and so being able to disconnect them, it's way easier if it's a cable. And so those factors made us go towards using a cable disc brake, and I think it's absolutely fine. The performance is great. I've no problem with trying to burst that bubble.
But this us being advocates of fix and repair is something we strongly believe in due to experience. Just creates a better customer journey.
Yeah.
So if you've spent a lot of money on a scooter, you want it to last several years, and there are perishable parts as part of that. So tires, inner tubes, brakes, those sorts of things will perish over time, and you just need to be able to service it locally or yourself.
Yeah.
It's really
I think I agree, and I think you've gone a long way to think about these things, and on the micro and all the different products and modes of micromobility. Like, I think as a consumer, we've gotten used to, products like the iPhones and such, which again, they're locked up, they're enclosed, but also their business models allow us and kind of afford us potentially to turn it in every year or every 2 years and just get a new one. For something like your products, people might have them for many, many years, and their ability to repair them, I think, is a thoughtful consideration you all have made. And a complaint I've heard a lot from, just normal people that want to learn more about these things. They do really worry that the idea that they're not going to be able to repair them and not going to be able to, have them more than a year or two, that sort of takes away from the experience, which, again,
it's a problem in the industry, really, that's based on kind of environmental concerns where we're reducing air pollution. When you've got a product that is sold as a sustainable option, but you can't repair it, it's like a throwaway design. It just doesn't make any sense at all. So, if you're going to be true to your word and call it a sustainable option to travel, you've got to be able to repair it over years.
Yeah.
To reduce consumption. You want to be able to just buy it once.
Yeah. I would argue that we're also kind of, in our own way, like that kind of philosophy that we have, we're even besting some of the car brands, because some of the car brands, they're not, the electric cars, like they're not fixable. Like, you have to return it. And I don't think that's a sustainable practice. I think it's probably very expensive to do for them. I kind of understand the kind of conquer all kind of idea, but we've seen in our industry some big names go. Some of the big brands that are out there that tried to do that, and they've tried to own it all, and they have this leasing option, and then it all falls apart. I mean, I won't name names, but there's some big European e-bike brands that have gone under, and I think that was their philosophy. They wanted to own it all. So I think, it is
control everyone's
to control everything, and those users, I think they've created their own app, and they're trying to get by, right? So that kind of lends into also the idea of why is the cable all exposed? It's because we want you to be able to get to the cable, pull it through the frame, and then replace it if you need to. So the idea of, like, if you want to upgrade, like if you really wanted hydraulic disc brakes, like the where you put the caliper it's exactly the same mounting. So you could get an aftermarket caliper brake, a high-end Magura, whatever you want, and you could put it on, no problem. But the standard base model, it comes with the cable and the cable disc brake, and the cables for the wiring harness, they go through the main frame into, it's like a tray. The foot plate clamps down onto the tray, so for a customer to access that, there's 4 bolts and a locking mechanism, so you can take it off. It's all nicely laid out there. Like, you don't need to hold it in a weird way. You can just put it on a stack of books. And as a customer, if you've got a broken controller, or you want to upgrade it, or you want to put a bigger motor on later, you can do that with the same frame. I mean, our normal products that we have here in the UK, so our kick scooters, I think the longest serving vehicle that we've had that's come in for a service is over 10 years old. So that just shows you how long they last. So I think we've kind of like got a bit of a refreshing approach compared to others. I mean, we also offer a fix and repair and repaint service. So people send us their vehicles and we repaint them for them, send them back brand looking new.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
yeah. I saw the custom decks you guys do as well, which looks really fun. And I think it's so I guess maybe to talk to the culture of the company, we haven't spent nearly enough time on the history of your business, how long you two have been at it, and just the credibility I think you bring with the idea that you've been in business for 13 years. But at the same time, I'm very curious where you stand on the transition to, of course, being more electric. We've seen here that, to speak to the U.S. market, the majority of the biggest players are not the incumbents, meaning the electrics, as I mentioned earlier, Mike at Rad, Abington. These are companies that were natively electric, natively digital too. And they don't come from the more traditional, say, pedal bike world. And we've seen something similar, I think, with the electric scooters that have market share here in the U.S., the big market share. How do you think about that transition to electric? Clearly, and again, I can tell some of your cultural tenets are the idea of sustainability and long lasting. You have a big consumer kick scooter market. How do you think about continually serving that while still trying to keep pace with, of course, all the innovation with electrification and where you might think this is all going? Just curious how you balance that. One day, are you all electric? Will you always have the kick model? All those things I'm very curious on and how you balance that as a culture.
Jason built our first electric scooter in 2013.
Yeah, in my workshop.
So it probably was before most people knew about electric scooters, and we've been watching the market develop in that time.
Well, they didn't electric scooters didn't exist when we started. There wasn't an electric scooter. I remember when the first ones came. I mean, the only thing that really existed was the was it called the kick ped, and it was like a wooden deck with an actual petrol motor on the back. They were like early 2000s, I think. They were like it was a scooter, but it was it had a petrol motor on the back, like a little 2-stroke motor, and they were banned pretty quick because they were really noisy and really smelly, because they were basically just like a chainsaw motor that was on the back. So, but they weren't electric, right? So it'd be a good question actually to know who was the very first. Maybe James, who was the very first?
I don't. That's a good question. I was someone in the audience I bet knows.
It's like 1904 or something, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean in modern times though, like I guess after Micro launch. I mean Micro and Razor, they're the big names that did it first. They were the big brands. I mean Razor, they sold like 6 million kick scooters like in their first year. They reported it was huge. And then so we were the roots of the company is, I'm an industrial product designer. Camilla's a technical fashion sportswear designer. We both work for different brands. At the time, we had our own little consultancy. And when we launched our design consultancy, which we still run to this day, we still have clients who we design products for. We launched our design studio by having like 3 or 4 projects that were the studio projects. One of them was a scooter. We had some kitchenware products and some other little bits and pieces. And we did a trade show and as part of London Design Week, and we got a really good response from the scooter. So we were like, we could have something here. Anyway, we took a year to develop the proper product, and then the brand, which was probably the hardest thing. The vehicle itself was pretty straightforward, but coming up with like a brand name and kind of an identity. It took some time, but then we came back the following year and I made 30 scooters in my workshop. It took me probably about 3 months to make them. And we sold them all at this trade show. And we were like, great, we had a pile of cash, which was amazing. We stupidly booked a holiday right after the trade show when we were getting all these emails. And then we got an order from a distributor in the Far East, and they wanted 200 pieces. So all I could think of when I'm on holiday was, how the hell am I going to make 200 pieces? It's just taking me 3 months to make 25. So it was a really amazing start. This was kind of like in a period of time when, if you went to a trade show, you would get bloggers and vloggers who would come to generate content. And we got picked up by lots of great content. We went on Bike Radar, which went around the world. We got an article in GQ magazine, et cetera, et cetera. And
is this a kick scooter, Jason, or is this a electric scooter?
Yeah, this was the kick scooter. So we started with kick scooters, and the reason why we started with kick scooters was because we were both living in London and we were commuting. We'd both had quite serious cycling accidents in London. Didn't really want to cycle anymore because it was more of a job of getting to the tube or the train, which was like a half a mile away or something. And the idea of a little razor scooter or a micro scooter, we were just like, no, it's a kid's toy. Like, there's got to be something better for an adult. So I guess we took inspiration from like folding bikes and being bike enthusiasts ourselves. And so we designed this 16-inch wheel folding scooter, which was called the Swifty One. And that just got like an amazing response. We sold a whole bunch of product. We then sourced the manufacturing in the UK. We bumped along all the typical startup kind of story. But now, roll forwards, we got 3 models of that kick scooter. We got a folding, non-folding, and a kids version. And then we have the electric range, and we've got, thousands of happy customers around the world. And we've really tried to we've always tried to build a company based on the opposite of who we used to work for, because we both work for big industry, where it's all about, the pursuit of profit is at all costs. And often, the amazing ideas that you have in the studio, it never goes to the end consumer. It's like it gets lost along the way because of cost, because of marketing, because of X, Y, and Z. So we've always had this kind of very strong opinion to try and create a company that had a bunch of values that we believe in, our customers believe in, and our employees believe in. So one of the things I was going to say before, when you said, how do you feel about the change in the market and how's that going to affect you going into electric? Like we've always lent from the phrase of evolve or die. Like it really is true. Like during COVID, a lot of our friends in the industry, they kind of just stayed still. And they're not here anymore. And that's because they didn't try and innovate. They didn't try and pivot. And that's something I think as a creative team, husband and wife team, we're very good at doing that because we come from a very different skill set. So we have like 2 different mindsets when it comes to product, but they combine really well together. And I guess that's why we've got quite a novel approach, and why we've been successful to date, hopefully.
Okay, and then but you'll keep the kick scooters going. You'll keep the non-electric models going, and continue to bring out new models in the non-electric space as well.
Yeah, we've got lots of ambitions. Yeah, and so historically we've always put profit back into new innovation. And so I'll give you an example. In lockdown, like everybody else, like our non-electric scooters, our kick scooters, they're made in our Taiwanese base. We've worked there for years. We've got a really good supply chain there. The new electric will be made in the UK. We'll still import some parts, but it will all be made here. So we were really struggling for product like everybody else. Like the lead times went from 3-4 months to 18 months. So we were like, man, what are we going to do? We got no product to sell. So I turned around to our financial director and I said, I need a bunch of money to buy some machinery and we're going to start making fitness products. And they were like, what? And that all came from a bunch of content that we made to help our customers how to scoot. And we've got this YouTube video on how to kick scoot. It has thousands of views, and it's basically a really simple video showing you how to do something called switch kicking. and that's when you skip from one side to the other with your foot and change feet. And that gave us the idea of producing like a little training device for our customers that they could use in front of the TV at home to learn how to switch kick. And that kind of went on to the idea of this balance board. And so we bought a whole bunch of CNC machinery and we started manufacturing balance boards. And the balance boards became like 20% of our turnover in lockdown. So this whole idea of innovate or die became something that, you know, I say all the time, because look what it did. It got us out of a hole. So the Swifty Go is kind of like, has an essence of that. It's like, break all the molds. Don't worry about, you know, what the norm is. Let's challenge that. And let's believe in our ability to deliver value to the customer.
I mean, yeah, we could go into so much on balance boards. I have quite a few balance boards here in my home.
Have you got one of ours? I'll send you one.
No, I don't have one of yours. I only knew that because, of course, researching you guys and seeing that in some of the designs, clearly, surfer, right? So all surfers have balance boards. Were you selling them to surfers, or are you selling just people working on their like core at stay at home?
Surfers, yogis, like it just took off. It was great.
Yeah.
People working from home.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Working from home, a little core. That's good. I love a balance board. I think that's actually really good for all the micro communities if they spent a little more time on balance boards.
Yeah.
Because really the Swifty is sort of grounded in sport as well.
Yeah, sure. No, I think that makes a lot of sense.
So a lot of our customers are into fitness, use kick scooters for fitness. And obviously the electric isn't really a fitness device.
Sure. But I mean, like I always say with electric, like, you know, if you're on an electric scooter, you're most likely going to do something else active too. So it's like, you know, it propagates fitness.
But there's definitely room for all of the products.
Yeah.
We're going to continue all of them.
Actually, the balance board is one of the reasons why the footplate of the G500 has got a plywood footplate, because we love the tactility of the plywood.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's beautiful. I agree with that.
So this is the balance board. So I'll send you one. You pick a color.
Amazing. Oh, thanks. Yeah, no, I love one. I love balance boards. It's just part of it. Okay, well, great. I mean, you know, again, I think the story is so interesting. I think your accents will come out for people that can't watch the video but see it in audio. Last thing I want to talk about is just your market sizing. So, you know, before we started, Jason, you told me about how you're seeing a lot of pickup in the U.S. as it relates to like digital traffic. Like, what is your biggest market today, and what will be your biggest market now?
Well, biggest market in time will definitely be the US for sure, 100%. I mean, if you just look at the search term electric scooter in the UK, US search term, it's like 100x. So no brainer to kind of put some cash into that, advertise to that market. And we've built quite a slick operation in terms of shipping direct to the consumer in the US now, in terms of how you do that. The requirements around dangerous goods with the battery. So we actually ship our battery separately first to the customer. We send it first because it can take up to 2 weeks to arrive, just because of custom clearance and stuff. And then the vehicle will arrive afterwards, and you just plug it in and it's all good. Because if you ship it together under that UN number, then it's a much more expensive item to ship. So,
but running a direct consumer brand, you know, it's the world's sort of quite small. You know, people find us from all over the place.
Yeah. So
even though we'd like to be the most successful in our home territory, I don't see that happening. Be a new electric scooter.
Well, let's. I mean, you know, so are you as two entrepreneurs, as founders, like, are you going to live in a place where it's not your biggest market, or are we going to see you move to the U.S.? And what's the, you know, you're going to compete from all the way across the ocean?
We have thought about it. We have talked about it as a family as well. And, you know, I said to the kids that's one of the reasons why we brought the kids with us to the show. It fell in half term time as well. But, you know, the tagging on the trip to Yosemite afterwards, which we did with them, was like this, like not once in a lifetime, but it's such an amazing experience for them. We had to let them experience it, but we wanted to let them experience and see how they reacted to the US. Because in the back of our mind, we've talked about it a few times, and there's a couple of brands that have done that in the past, and it's not outside of the realms of possibility. But let's see.
Maybe you two need to talk about that more. But I think that's. And then how long before here in the U.S. we see Swifties at at Walmart, at Best Buy, at Costco? Like, is that in the cards? It sounds like it could. Again, it's so interesting to hear about the UN standard there, where you're shipping the battery and then the vehicle, which is great. It's fine, but gosh, why can't I just get it all? Why can't I get it all immediately? Why can't, I mean, these are things that I can do with cars and other things. It's so unfortunate that that's the experience. Like,
the first thing we're doing is having a base for some stock in the US, which will happen quite shortly.
Yeah.
So direct to consumer is our focus at the moment.
Yeah.
And any other retail opportunities, we'll just see what comes our way, I guess.
Yeah, there's one really cool thing I'd like to just mention, and we didn't really get a chance to demonstrate it very much at the show, but we have a company called Quinn who we partnered with, who are based in Texas, and that's where we're going to have stock. They're very good friends of ours. They're actually a British company, but they have a base in Texas, and they have a really, really cool bit of hardware that they put into helmets, and this bit of hardware provides crash detection. It's a crash detection device, and it will call your emergency services if you have an accident. And so we have put that hardware inside the vehicle, inside the scooter, sorry. So our scooter technically would be able to detect if you have a crash. It can detect the G-force on impact, the acceleration, deceleration, the angle into turning and cornering. We're still testing all of this data. We had the sample live at the show, and we showed a couple of people. But Quinn have been an amazing support of ours. We're going to have stock at their warehouse by April next year. And if customers want to have this technology in their vehicle, which we think will really help if insurance becomes a mandatory thing that you would need for your vehicle, because you'd be able to prove that you're a safe rider. You'd be able to say, look, this is how fast I've been going. In the event of an accident, you'd be able to prove your innocence, for example. So it's a really cool area for micromobility, and I think it's been talked about. People have been talking about this, collecting the data, and this is our kind of approach to work with someone like Quinn to do that.
Very cool. Yeah, we got to check out Quinn. But yeah, all these things around the vehicle, of course, was a big topic at the event, and will continue to be a big part of the conversation, along with things like V2X technologies that are increasingly coming to e-bikes and scooters and such.
I think it's really cool, isn't it? The way like the barrier to entry to some stuff has really come down in the last 5 years. Like we were just talking the other day, like our sales platform is Shopify, and like when we started, we had to have a custom website built.
Of course,
it cost us so much money to do that, but now like $200 a month and you're in, and it's like amazing functionality.
Yes, totally. I totally agree. And again, I think it's also good that I see, Jason, we talked a little bit about Best Buy and like their e-transportation hub they're working on here in the US. Like, I think it's time for the traditional retailers to get much more serious about how they service all of you and give you the things that you need, because the digital competition is very real, and these retailers need to be relevant. And as we run Ride Review, I see the search traffic, like the amount of people searching for scooters in the US is insane. And I don't think that all they're being serviced in traditional retail. And that's, at some point, that becomes a big, big opportunity.
I think that's cool if you become the conduit to help, non-native brands to access that. That's amazing part of what Micromobility and Ride Review can do. I think that's great. Great opportunity.
Yeah, we want to definitely be a part of that. But, it's also just like, when you tell people there's, tens of thousands of searches, you get a month, like you should probably service these channels with purchase prices anywhere between $1,000 to $5,000. Like,
yeah,
that's just a no-brainer.
Yeah.
So just to wrap up here, Jason and Camilla, one, congratulations on winning Micromobility America Startup Award. It's very funny, actually. We had both in Europe, American company won, and in America, a European company won.
Oh,
so I don't know what that's
right.
all about, but it sort of speaks to the international nature of the event. I guess it's really, really cool to see. But yeah, you guys were awesome. We appreciate the energy. And for everyone at home, go to swiftyscooters.com. And of course, check out all of the vehicles. The latest vehicle, just to reiterate though, what you're doing with the LFP batteries is really interesting. I commend you for what you're trying to do there. And hopefully it becomes an industry standard. In terms of your right to repair and your stance on that, I think, again, it's something that you should be applauded for. As it relates to that 16-inch wheelbase and lower ride profile, I just think that's something that not enough people have felt and touched. So it'd be great to, I'd urge people to go out and try that type of, your vehicle and just get that 16-inch wheelbase, because I think it is a safer and cruisier ride. So it's also just kind of fun in a way that scooters are always fun, but I think it's fun in a different way. And so it's worth really trying out if you haven't before. And of course, the idea that you can buy it here in America, DTC, is awesome too. And I think people should. So go to Swifty Scooters, check it out. Jason and Camilla, thanks so much for coming on the show. And we now you got the Riders' Choice Awards to fight for. So hope to see you guys win for best commuter scooter, best folding scooter, any of the categories you might be in for. And we'll announce the winners for the Riders' Choice Awards at Micromobility World and the Riders' Choice Awards at January 25th for everyone listening or watching it.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, James.
Yeah.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, same. Right on. Thanks, guys.